YouTube, welcome to Jackie's Lyric Corner. I am Jackie, and today I got some books to haul for you guys, and some of them are actually digital orders. I don't usually do that, but I thought I would go ahead since I've ordered at least I ordered 3, which is usually what I do anyway when I go to the used bookstore. So I figured why don't I show them to you guys which ones I got. And I'm also gonna talk to you about what I've read recently because we just got back from visiting my sister. And of course, I didn't get a lot of reading done because we were babysitting the kids again while my sister and brother-in-law went on a little trip. And actually last night I finally finally got a little bit more time to watch YouTube videos and stuff like that. And when my 7-year-old nephew was saying goodnight to me, he basically called me out on that and told me that I shouldn't be sitting at my Mac all day and that I need to take a break. Which I was caught between being a little amused and also kind of feeling a little self-conscious and called out and a little embarrassed about being called out by a 7-year-old. I mean, that was the most, in my defense, that was the most I spent on there while we were watching them. The other times that I was on here was more like when they went were gone for the day, like they had school and stuff like that. But other than that, I try to not be on there as much because in the past my sister has said something to me before, back when I was doing Facebook and roleplay and all that, and I've lessened my time on being on my Mac. And that's part of why I also tried to prioritize reading a little bit more. I mean, I've always been a reader, but I wanted to make sure I read just as much as I watched TV and movies and spend as much time on the computer. But when I go to my sister's or my grandmother's, because I can't be on at my grandmother's, it's a little different. When I'm at my sister's, it's not like I can be on the computer when I want to because we're there to spend time with the kids and, play with them and watch. So I try to, and assessment my sister in the past, even before she had kids, she had said something to me about being on the computer all day. And, so I try, so when we go there, I try to make sure I'm not on there as much. And then, although I guess it was enough for my 7-year-old nephew to notice, but then I was on there a lot all day, most of yesterday. Yesterday afternoon into the evening, to be fair. I did get up, of course, and go do stuff, go to the bathroom, and then there were a couple times where I had to sit outside with the kids, and, but, while I'm at my grandma's, it's a different story. When I'm at my grandma's, all we do is sit at the kitchen table and watch Fox News. And the only time we go do anything else is to run errands or go out to eat with the family. Or if there's a family function going on, one of my cousins is having a party or a family, or it's the holidays or something. But other than that, all we do with my grandma is sit there and watch Fox News and there's really, I don't go walking when I'm there, which is probably not good for my exercising, but I like to go early in the morning, so I would have to explain to my grandma that, and it's not like they can leave, and I don't know if she would feel comfortable with me leaving the door unlocked, and she would be worried, so, because it's early in the morning, even though, it's in the morning, she'll still be thinking you never know, things might happen, so I don't do my exercises at her house when we're visiting there. I'm on vacation, allowing myself to be lazy, and then so I don't do that. And she only has one level. She does have a bonus room, but it's not like I'm gonna go up there and hang out there. And it's always either freezing cold up there because it's an attic space, or it's like really warm. And then because I've never done that, I have to, I would have to explain to her. And again, I don't want to have to explain. And so, like, all I end up doing all day is sitting there in the dining room on my Mac so I don't disturb anybody when I'm watching videos. And then, when everybody comes over, I'll sit with them for a little while, but then, in all honesty, I feel bad for saying this because it is family. But sometimes I just get bored sitting there, hearing everybody talk. I'm just not, in all honesty, I'm just not as always as interested. I mean, I know I should because they're, I want to know how my cousins are doing. And I do pay attention for a little bit. And maybe that seems rude, and that's probably rooting, some people might think that's rude and stuff, but I'm not gonna, like, I'll show some interest, and I'm always proud of my cousins and what they accomplish and how they're doing and how their careers are progressing, when they get their first jobs and their graduations, I'm always rooting for them and I'm proud of them, but, some of the stuff that they talk about, I don't know anything about and I have no interest. And maybe that shouldn't matter. Maybe she should still. But anyway, so I just kind of sit there and, don't really. And then I'm either on my Mac or I try to make sure I have some reading time in. So I do other stuff. And what I will try to do is walk around while I'm reading my book. Like Belle does when she's in the village. Just to get some exercise and get up. Plus her dining room chairs and the chairs in the kitchen at the kitchen table are so uncomfortable. I mean, I guess there is the living room and the family room where I could sit there, but the light isn't always that great in there. So, and plus, like, either way, there's the TV as a distraction. So yeah, I don't do, so yeah, long story short, I try to limit, but sometimes, when I'm going to my grandma's, it's hard to limit it because I don't want to listen to Fox News 24/7. And then, my sister's, that's a little bit better because at least we're always, we're trying to do something with the kids, and so it's easier to stay, make sure, prioritize not being on my Mac. But anyway, so yeah, I was a little embarrassed that my nephew called me out, but at the same time, he probably, calls it like, as his dad said, he calls it like he sees it. Anyway, so as far as reading goes, of course, because I once again brought too many books with me, but it's hard because I can't make a decision. I don't know which ones I want to prioritize, and there's always some reason where I'm thinking, oh, but maybe I should bring this book. Or maybe I should bring this one, but I want to bring this one, and, so I did start reading, books I started reading were Vanity Fair. I read the first 4 chapters. I'm in the middle of a chapter, in the middle of chapter 4, which is a little bit longer of one. And this one, like, I thought about it bringing, this one, Vanity Fair was one of the situations where I was like, it was a book one of the books I got in London, and I wanted to, and I thought about bringing it, but then I changed my mind. Then I was watching Kim from Middle of the Book March. She was talking about we're going to start reading this book, and then I was like, no, I want to bring it. And it, that's always as soon as I hear a booktuber talking about a book they're gonna read, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I wanted to read that book, so maybe I should read that book instead. Or, that always happens to me. I always, and it's not like they're forcing me to. It's just as soon as they start talking about it, and it's a book that I've been wanting to read, then all of a sudden I'm inspired to pick it up and read it. But so I don't really have a lot to say except for that Becky Sharp and her friend Amelia finally got kicked out, removed from the school they were going to because Becky hated being there. The Chiswick school, and she goes to stay in, Becky's staying with Amelia right now because I think she's an orphan. Yeah, because both her parents died. And so she goes to, she's going to live with Amelia, and we know she has a little bit of a crush on Amelia's brother Joseph. And she likes messing with him. And of course, with books like this, a lot of the chapter are talking more about the character and who they are and how these characters feel about them. So there was a lot of that, like, basically that Becky Sharp is a manipulative little brat. So yeah, unfortunately I don't have a lot to say, like, because I didn't get very far. And then, I'll come back to that one. This was the other book I got from London. I wanted to get the UK cover. And, like, I've been wanting to get UK covers for years of a lot of these books, of a lot of my favorite books, because I love UK covers. They're so beautiful. Oftentimes better than ours. But I did start reading the Dragonbone Chair, the first book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series, and again, all I have is we're introduced to the character, this 14-year-old boy. He works in the palace, in the kitchens, and his life kind of is not that great. It kind of sucks, but and he knows, and he's like, my life is not going to go anywhere. I'm just stuck here. So yeah, again, I don't have a lot. I have even less to say about this one because I'm only on chapter 2. At least that Vanity Fair, I got to chapter 4. But I was distracted a lot, and I really should just bring books that I've already made progress on, that I've started, and prioritize that instead of bringing books that I'm in the middle of, or at least bring books that won't take me as long to read. But then my other thing, this other idea that I have is that I don't want to bring a book that I don't want to bring a book with me that I'm almost finished with. Like, either I have to be only at the halfway point at the most, or it has to be one that I just started. Because then I'm thinking, oh, what if I finish it while I'm on my vacation and I won't have anything to read? Which is not going to happen. It's just, that's my logic. And the last book I'm going to show you before I get to the ones that I've read the most of is, I also started reading the Once in Future, which is by Alex E. Harrow, which I think she's the same author who wrote the Gideon and the Ninth. But this is a story set in the 1800s, and like how witches no longer exist. And I think these three sisters want to bring back magic and witchcraft. And it's also a very feminist book. So we've only met the characters, and we got a little hints of their past. It's these three sisters, and there's a bit of a history between them. They don't have, they're sisters, of course, but there's things that happen in the past between them, especially the youngest, that kind of cause them to go their separate ways. And they're all talking about remembering the days of the Salem witches, and how they wish they had power like that. And so yeah, again, I don't have a lot to say. But this was a book that my friend Larissa had absolutely loved. It's one of her favorites. So it was one of these things when I bought it, I was kind of like, oh, this was one of Larissa's books. So let me go ahead and pick it up and start reading it. And I actually, funnily enough, so one of the store I went to where I bought physical books, I saw this book there. And it's not like a Books A Million or Barnes. It wasn't a Books A Million or Barnes and Noble. It was an used bookstore. Well, it wasn't even a bookstore. It was actually a thrift shop that sold books. And I saw this there, so I thought that was funny that one of the books I'm currently reading that I brought with me, I saw at the thrift shop. It was a pretty good selection too. Like, half my haul is from there. And I remember my sister wanted to bring me there to that bookstore because she had got me books from there. And it wasn't a bad selection. I mean, like, unfortunately, the one time I went to a thrift store to buy books, that I bought books here, it wasn't, the selection was kind of small. I think it was the first year we moved here. I did find a good book, but it was kind of a small selection. I remember. I don't know if it's the same now, but I don't even remember what thrift shop it was. But I remember going to one and buying a book there. So I think sometimes not a bad thing if you buy books at a thrift store. I mean, probably clean them up a little bit after you buy them, but they were still in pretty good condition. Now, the dollar store, getting books at the dollar store, that's another story, because I've gone, they have a really tiny selection, and it's not like, and I imagine there are books there that aren't as popular, books that are people that are just trying to get rid of. That's how I feel with getting books at the dollar store. But anyway, so yeah, so again, I don't have a lot to say, but I don't have anything really to say about this one because I barely started the book. So now let's talk about the ones I do have that I have made a lot of progress. First, we have Wilkie Collins' The Woman in White, and we're actually, like, the first part of the book was from the perspective of Walter Hartwright, the drawing tutor, and then we went to, and then he leaves, and we get to the perspective of Mr. Gilmore, who is the solicitor for the Fairley family. And then the rest of the book, we seem to be in the perspective of the sister of Laura's sister, Marion, and her side of the story. We like her, which I feel like if we had a character like, our perspective was a character like Marion in Mysteries of Udolpho, I probably would have liked it better because, the main woman in that story, I didn't like her. She was kind of annoying. I mean, I liked her in the beginning. I thought she was okay in the beginning, and I was like, oh, she's actually kind of smart. But as the story progressed, and maybe it was because she was in this horrible situation, the way women were expected to act back then, and most of them probably did act. As a modern woman, sometimes that can be frustrating to read. But, I do enjoy when books set in this time period, we have one of the female leads is a little bit more level-headed. But yeah, it's getting really interesting, and I'm like, I want to know what the deal is with first of all, with Count Fosco, which I'm intrigued by him. He's an odd man. And he does. There is a character he reminds me of that they I cannot remember the name of this character. But I think it was I don't know if it was ever a book. But it was a character that also was obsessed with little, like, mice. His only friends were mice. And Count Fosco, even though he has a wife, he's married to Laura's aunt, he's still, he is one of those people that has little pet mice and birds and stuff, and I'm guessing he only connects with them. And he treats them like they're his babies. Which, yeah, most people who own pets do that. I wish I remember what character he reminds me of, the name of the character that he reminds me of. But I also want to know what the deal is with, what is his name? What is this guy's name? Our antagonist. Not Fosco. I cannot believe I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that Laura is forced to marry, Laura has to marry, I keep saying Count Fosco, but I cannot, it doesn't show her husband's name. Oh, Sir Percival. Sir Percival. Yeah, him. I want to know what his deal is. Like, I mean, we already know that he's in debt and he needs their money, but it sounds like there's a darker secret going on. I mean, I don't know, maybe it is just the debt thing, him being in debt, but I mean, we already were told that. The reader knows that. So there's got to be something else. You know, that we don't know, that, like, because, but oh my god, this dude is such, like, acts like such a child. Like, he has a temper tantrum. And at least there's glimpses of Marion trying to stand up to him. But of course, women back then, it was not that easy to stand up to someone like that, especially if he's your husband. But as, you know, and I try not to, you know, try to go with it, not read it as a modern woman, but although even if I was in the story, I still don't think I could stand up to Sir Percival. I don't know. In all honesty, I don't know if I could, even as a modern woman, because this dude is scary and intimidating, and he's, like I said, he's got a temper. But it's definitely really interesting. So I'm making progress on that. And then the other thing I'm reading is not a spooky book or not a mystery or anything, but it's Of Fire and Blood. I'm reading and I'm on chapter 28 on that book. And once again, our characters, Callan and his friends, are gone on a journey to figure out, on their journey to, you know, to a safe haven, and so it has a lot of the familiar tropes and a lot of fantasy stories like Lord of the Rings and the Wheel of Time and all that. But, you know, I mean, I feel like that's the problem. Sometimes people will reject these kinds of books because, oh, they're copying off of Lord of the Rings, or they're copying off of, you know, Wheel of Time or something. It's like, I don't think you could, you know, do that and not get in trouble for it if you were an actual carbon copy of those classic books. I don't know if you could get away with it. I think most authors have more integrity than that, and actually they will be inspired and use some of the elements, but most fantasy is a genre where everything is a trope now anyway. So even if it does seem similar to something else, I think maybe instead of being, you know, whiny about it and be like, oh, it's too much like my favorite book. Like, I understand sometimes where tropes, if it's a trope you already don't like, and it's not just because, oh, it's copying off of my favorite book, but it's because you don't like that trope or you don't like how it was done, that's fine if you don't like it because of that. But don't be like, oh, it's copying off of Lord of the Rings or something, or Wheel of Time. It's copying on Wheel of Time, you know, or copying off of Song of Ice and Fire. Like, I feel like that's a silly reason not to give a book a shot and at least try to read more of the book or the series before you just pass that kind of judgment on it. Because I think you're just being whiny, being like, oh, this is my favorite book and you can't copy off of it. You know? But so far I'm really enjoying it. You know, it had the trope of some characters are being separated, so I'm wondering what's gonna happen to those characters. I'm very nervous for certain characters in this. I definitely want to know more about the Draylaid, and figure out like what their powers are, what they're capable of. And I love any story where someone is basically a dragon rider. I think I like that because I always wanted a pet dragon. Okay, so anyway, so let's get to the book haul. Okay, so first let me show you the books, the physical books. Okay, so first let's show you. So this one was a situation where I didn't realize it, but this is actually an 11th book in a series. The Poldark series by Winston Graham. This is book 11. I did not realize it. I don't know if, I don't think, maybe you can, but I don't know if you can get away with reading the story. I mean, there might be some confusing aspects, and there's things that were in the previous books that you might not know, but I mean, it's not like a direct, I don't think it's like a, like you, like, I don't think this is a series where each book ends on a cliffhanger and you have to read the next book to find out the rest of the story. Like, I imagine it's one of those ones where each story has an ending. So, but I don't know. I still might, try to read them in order and get all 11 books. Problem is, I want to make sure I avoid that kind of series now, where I don't get so many books in the series. But I might, make exceptions, obviously, here and there. But, and it's only like 12 books. There's only like one more book after this one, so maybe it will be fine. It's just, I have to go through my books again and, get rid of stuff in it. Again, it's at a point where it's really hard and I have to, select books and be like, do I really want to keep this book? Do I really need, so it's hard to, so I can't really talk about it. What goes on is, except for, like, I think it's historical fiction about this family in, their lives, and all through it's a generational story. And like I said, I can't really talk about it because first I haven't even read the first book, so I can't read this one. If you're familiar with the series, I can't read the back description. But yeah, but that's the risk of used book shopping. You might be getting a book in the middle of a series. So, but reading the back, the description sounded really fun and interesting. It was only $2.99. So yeah, all the books I bought recently were like really cheap. Sorry, I got a hair in my mouth. Is it? Got it. Or I bought a lot of cheap books recently, including the digital ones. So yes, that's The Twisted Sword, the 11th book in the Poldark series. So thankfully these other two are not part of the series. First we have The Ballot of Perilous Graves by Alex Jennings. Oh, and Victor Lavelle gave this. I read his book, The Changeling, on my Kindle. So this one, Nola is a city full of wonders. An alternate, I can't read that. It's a place of sky trolleys and dead cabs where aints dance in the night away, and wise women help keep the order. To those from away, Nola might seem strange. To Perilous Graves, it's simply home. Perry knows Nola's rhythm as well as his own heartbeat. So when the city's great magician starts appearing in odd places and essential songs are forgotten, Perry realizes that trouble's afoot. 9 songs of power have escaped from the piano that maintain the city's beat. Without them, Nola will fail. Unwilling to watch his home be destroyed, Perry will sacrifice everything to save it. But a storm is brewing, and the Haint of all Haints is awake. Nola's time might be coming to an end. So yeah, this sounded like a really cool premise. I liked the cover. It's very colorful. And it just sounded really like an intriguing premise. And like I said, I did not realize that Victor Lavelle blurbed it. Okay, so the last one is a classic. So I've been slowly accumulating Shakespeare plays. It's not necessarily the edition I wanted, but I figured I may as well get it because I don't know when the next time I'll get to go to Barnes & Noble. because the editions I like of Shakespeare's works are Barnes & Noble editions. But we have The Tempest. This is the one of his more fantastical stories, I think. So it is an escapist fantasy, but it's also a political allegory. Okay, that just talks about, the importance of the play and everything, what it meant. Oh, okay, so it really does not give a description of what it's about, which at least it's not spoiling, because sometimes classic some descriptions on the back, they tend to give away the plot, because they think, oh, it's so old, you probably already read it. Oh. Oh, wow. Page came out. Let's see. So, I don't know a lot about the Tempest. I know it's a fantasy. It's kind of an epic fantasy with sorcerers and, oh. And there's, like... Okay. Yeah, it's funny, with especially Shakespeare plays, is always the beginning, like, the first chunk of the book is all a bunch of, like, introductory notes and, appendices and all that, So Shakespeare plays, if they didn't have all the introduction notes and all that, then they probably wouldn't look as long. The book wouldn't look as thick. But, so, again, I don't know a lot about this one. Like I said, I know there's, fantasy and magic involved in the Tempest. And I think there's also siblings involved in this. Okay, so now let's talk about my Kindle Order. So, I was trying to do the, autumnal. So first I got The Omen. So in case you don't know what The Omen is about, if you haven't through osmosis found out what it's about, this is a classic horror that it was adapted twice. And most people probably prefer this 1970s one. But there was one that came out in the early 2000s, I believe, adaptation. But this is the story about this family, who adopts a, like, they can't get pregnant, the wife can't get pregnant, like, she's had miscarriages, and they end up adopting this little boy who is supposedly the son of Satan. And it's a classic, so I figured, I should read it, read the classic fantasy. So, our classic horror, like, that's what I've been doing lately, is reading some classic horror. Before, like, I was slowly going through the books I put on my list of books I want to read, horror, that my wish list on here, and then, I was trying to stick to only buying one more book. And, I wanted to pick the the right one. And I was watching like Mike's book reviews where he did videos on his favorite horror novels, and so I was like, let me just go ahead and get this one because I might never get around to buying this one because I might get distracted by other books. Okay, so next, so I ended up buying that one, and then we have this one along with the next one were indirect to Mike from Mike's book reviews recommendations. We Are the Dead by Mike Shackle. And it's one of those, the bad guys, the Empire has taken over, and all these people, the survivors are trying to get back what was taken, reclaim their home from the evil Empire, which is kind of what Bound and the Broken, same thing. And the same thing with Mistborn as well. The first trilogy Brandon Sanderson wrote in the Mistborn, the world of Mistborn. So I don't know. Again, I don't know a lot about. I don't know a lot about this one except for like what I said. It's one of those where an empire has taken over and now the rebels are fighting back. But yeah, it was marked as a horror book. So I guess because it has We Are the Dead, we have the titles We Are the Dead. So someone was like, it's horror, but I don't think it's horror. I think it's more epic fantasy. Okay, and then the last book that I ended up buying was this was another again another Mike from Mike's book reviews recommendation, Blackwater, which is I think a family saga, and I think he compared it to Stephen King. And like he talked about in his review of the book how like the book Michael McDowell spends a lot of time really establishing the characters. You really get to know them to the point where you just fall in love with these characters and you get very attached to them. So I figured let me just go ahead and get in on Kindle. And because I don't think I've ever seen that Books a Million. So maybe I have. But figure out ways. Well, along with I might eventually get Shogun on Kindle as well, and then there's another one that I'm thinking about getting on Kindle. I was thinking about getting Demon Copperhead on Kindle, but that might have to wait though until November. I might wait until November, but yeah, so I'm excited to read. I'm especially excited to read Blackwater because the way Mike talked about it got me really excited. So so I will be getting back to of Blood and what is it? Of Blood and of Blood and Fire. I will be getting back to that one maybe some point today. Let me see. Do I need to plug this in? Well, it's only okay. So it's 83%. So I'm good. Oh wait, you don't mean to do that. Okay. See, I do not know why there's a bookmark thing on here that twice it hasn't worked. So I've had to restart my Kindle and to get the bookmark thing to work. So that's kind of annoying, actually. So that's kind of annoying. Not that I lose my spot. It stays in the same place on the Kindle, but I kind of like, using the bookmark thing on there. Now I gotta figure out how to do Kindle notes on there. I do not know how to do that yet. I haven't figured it out, and I've had it for like 2 years now, and But anyway, so that is right now how things are going with my reading right now. As always, I would love to know what you are currently reading. And have you recently made any book purchases lately or borrowed books from the library recently? I would love to know that as well. And if you like this book, if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye.